I was making my way through some thrift shops yesterday and I came across this Singer here, and I just had to have a look and see what it was, and turns out it's a Model 190. So I've not seen one of these machines in the flesh, so you know they're obviously not very common here in these parts, but maybe they are elsewhere, I don't know, but I've not seen one. So let's have a quick look at the machine and see what we've got here. So we can see here the Singer Company Model 190, and it's all looking reasonably complete with the foot controller here, and power cable looks all original. There's a tag on there to say that the item has been tested and complies with the Australian and New Zealand standard for electrical testing. It's got a tag number there, signed off, so you know this has been electrically tested, which is quite handy. So I'm fairly confident that plugging this in is safe. If you ever pick a machine up that has not been electrically tested and you're not sure of the history of the machine, or you know what sort of state it's in electrically, I would get your mechanic or an electrician to maybe check it over first before you go plugging it in. Close look at the foot controller there, needs a good clean up. A little chip off the back there, there's a little rubber foot missing there. Everything looks in order there though. It's quite a nice looking machine with a sort of a fawny coloured top and faceplate there, sort of a beigey colour body there, a bit of chrome. Quite nice. Drop feed, I'd say, drop feed, stitch length. So this is very reminiscent of likes of 99K. Bobbin winder there, bobbin tension, main tension here. Let's have a wee look around the back. Everything looks okay. We've got a 240 volt machine at 0.43 amps. Is that original? Oh, there's Molly. Come and say hello. Yeah, Molly's turned up. Come and say hello. You haven't said hello for a wee while. For those who don't know Molly, she's quite often in the limelight, and yeah, she is more of a hindrance than a help, but she supervises quite well. Right, don't know if this is original or whether that should have the likes of that Bakelite cover on here. As I say, I've not seen one of these machines before, so I'm a little bit unfamiliar with them. Belt looks like it's reasonably well tensioned there. Look around the side here. Got a nice hand wheel with a bit of chrome on it there. All seems in order. Little box of bits here. Thanks to one of my customers who actually rang me and said that this machine was in the op shop, in the thrift shop there, so I called in to have a wee look, and yeah, thought it was worth picking up. There's a straight stitch plate there, a hemming foot, little thread guide, edge guide there, zip foot. That looks like a satin stitching foot of some sort. A little screwdriver. Yeah, so what do we got here? We've got a note, buttonhole, top dial set at 2, side dial set at middle, make buttonhole required length, something material shift top dial to 5, make 3 or 4 stitches, then shift the dial back to 2, when back at start make 3 or 4 stitches with stop dial at 5. I've got a little empty packet of Singer needles there. They look like the original Singer needles. A little bit rusty. One of them is anyway. Yeah, the original Singer needles. Let's have a look around the other end. Got a nice gold Singer label here too. Pretty neat. In the front there, looks all in order there. Looks pretty good. Curious as to where the serial number is on this one. It's probably under here. Just carefully tip that back. So now, just to make this a bit easier, I'm going to take the machine out of its base. I'll just let that lie back there carefully. Oh, it's actually one of the screws is loose, so both of them are actually. Yeah, so the hinge, it looks like the hinge screws are, or maybe there are no hinge screws. Oh yeah, the hinge screws are down in here. Yeah, so there's two ways you can pull these apart. One way is to loosen the hinge screws from underneath. You'll see, you might be able to see down there, the hinge screw is actually loose. Yeah, so you can see the head of the screw down in there. Hopefully you can see that. But that so that allows you to loosen those screws and the this hinge to come off, to come out. The other way you can do this is you can actually loosen the screws that attach these hinges into the machine itself. So you can see that hinge sits in here, and normally that screw would be tight. So you could do it either way, whatever you find easier, I guess. Is either release these screws here, one each side, one here and one over here, or these two screws here and actually let the whole pin come out and just leave these screwed in into the base there. I guess it really depends what you find easier, but they're both loose. So got the machine out there now. There's a couple of little rubber parts floating around in there. Is that how they go? Maybe one there, and I would say the other one probably over that side there. Yeah, I can see remnants of glue there, so more than likely these have been glued into place and they've just come off, there. So I would say that's where they belong there. Here's the serial number. Let's consult the app there. Well, that's interesting. It says the Singer data contains no detailed information for serial number beginning with TA. Here is the year they were issued, beginning 1956. Yeah, no, I'm not sure what year this one is exactly, and I've even looked at the ismax.net serial number tracking on the website. So I thought I'd check the website out there too. This is the Singer serial number database, Ismax International, and if we scroll down we can see there's no serial starting with T. So if anyone knows, how to track the or date these machines, I'd be interested to know. If you could leave comments down below, that would be great. Just plug the machine in. There's power on there. It's always a good idea if you're going to test run a machine to lift the presser foot up here so that the feed dogs don't wear on the bottom of the presser foot there. Sounds okay, possibly needs a bit of oil there, but sounds alright. The bulb did come on just momentarily there when I first plugged it in, but instantly turned off. Might be a blown bulb there. let's just have a wee check of the strength of the motor. Yeah, it's not the gruntiest motor around, but you know, I think it's good enough to drive the machine at a reasonable speed. I'm just providing a little bit of force just on the hand wheel there to hold back. You don't want to stall the machine for too long, you know, and then if you hold back on the hand wheel just slightly and then floor it, you get a bit of an idea as to the strength of the motor there. Seems okay. First thing I would do is check the motor brushes before really running the machine. So let's go ahead and do that. First of all though, before you do anything like that, is make sure you unplug the machine from the power. Absolutely make sure you don't have the machine plugged in when you're going anywhere near the motor or the electrics. It's live wiring there. But the motor brushes, they should be fairly easy to check there. If we can get a screwdriver in to take this cap here off, just need a straight flathead screwdriver. Undo that screw there, lift off the cap here. This is quite convenient where they have these motor brush holders with the little slit down the side there. You can actually, if you get a torch, you can shine a light in there and you can see there that the motor brush, yeah, there's plenty of life left in that motor brush there. So what you're looking for is the motor brush is inside this channel here, and it's a carbon brush. It's a sort of a rectangular shape with a spring on the end. So the spring is, you can see the spring there. You should be able to, hopefully you'll be able to see the spring there. And the spring goes down and pushes against the motor brush there, and the motor brush in turn pushes on the motor commutator down here at the point of the screwdriver there. You can see the motor brush starts at about this point here and is this long here, this whole length here. The reason you want to check your motor brush is because that spring there is pushing this motor brush down onto the commutator, and it just slowly wears away. So eventually, you know, this brush will get shorter and shorter and shorter, and eventually the brush will wear out completely, which is really bad, because as soon as that spring there reaches the commutator, because the brush is completely worn away, that will damage the motor, and it's a very expensive fix there. So you definitely want to make sure that the motor brushes don't wear out completely. So the other motor brush, you know, comes in, so this one comes in from the top and the other one comes in from below up in this direction here. And you'd have to assume that if this motor brush is in good condition, it's got plenty of length left, that the lower one is also in good condition and has plenty of length left. But if you don't want to assume that, you would want to you know, inspect the lower brush by taking the opposing cap off here, same as what we did on the top one there. There's a little screw there. On this particular machine, I think this lamp holder would have to come off to allow you to get your screwdriver in to undo that cap there. And we'll just put the cap back on and screw that back up. Let's have a wee look at the bobbin case area here. We've got this handy slide out plate here, and that allows you to reach in and grab the bobbin case latch there. Let's get you a closer look at this here. This is the bobbin case down in here, and just make sure that you turn your machine to bring the needle out from the plate there, and you'll see a little latch. See a little latch here. Just pull that little latch out like that and remove your bobbin case like so. Bobbin in there. While I'm here, I might as well show you how to clean and oil the machine. It's fairly straightforward on a machine like this. So I would start by removing the presser foot there. And these two screws for the throat plate. And that plate should just lift off there. And you'll see that there's a fair amount of lint and dust in there. Just go ahead and give that a clean out. If you don't have compressed air, you can just use a brush like this, just even like an old toothbrush or something like that. Do the trick. You just want to remove as much lint as you can there. If you've got compressed air, just go ahead and give it a blowout around here. Also pays to have a look in behind the faceplate here. You may find a little brush like this is a bit more convenient for cleaning in these areas. It's just really just remove any dust from there. It's not actually all that dirty. You may also want to remove the lid here just to have a look in under there, just to see if it's dirty in there and get oil in there. Yep, it's pretty clean. And I would say, looking at these screws here for the lid, these are the lid screws, they've got holes through the middle of them. So there's a hole on the top, comes right through and out the bottom. They're actually oil holes. So the screws are actually acting as an oil path as well. So there's oil to go down in there. But if you've got the lid off, you would just put oil into the hole that the screw goes into. Looks fairly clean in here. Just have a wee brush around. There's nothing much in there. So now it's just a matter of lubricating the machine. Once it's clean, we'll lubricate it. Got access to all areas here for the lubrication. So let's start by the hand wheel here. So you've got the stop motion clutch here. So that's so that you can disengage the machine from turning whilst winding a bobbin if you want to. And if that gets a bit dry in there, you'll notice that the machine will try and turn even though you've got the clutch disengaged. So that can just be a matter of getting a bit of oil down into that hole there. There's a oil hole for the bobbin winder as well. Let's get you a close look at the oil hole on the bobbin winder there. One there. Just a little drop of oil there, that's too much. So we'll wipe some of that off. It's a little bit too much oil there. You don't want too much oil around the bobbin winder area because it can spray out onto the bobbin winder rubber there. Now we'll go ahead and oil the top shaft here. So we've got the main bearing on the right hand side. That's one of the lid screw holes that I showed you before. Let's get a bit of oil into there. We've got this crank here. Let's get oil into that. And we've also got this cam and its follower here. So oil onto that there. And if we have a look down in the guts of the machine here, you'll see the reverse and stitch length lever here. It's quite a good idea to get a little bit of oil onto that as well. Just down, just drop straight down onto there. Just like that there. Just try and get oil onto the other side of this shaft here. Goes right through here, just down in there. And if we move across just a little bit here, this here is an oil hole. That one. Yeah, I can see a problem here. There's supposed to be a little lever coming out of here. And that lever here is for the stitch width adjustment. So that's obviously broken off, and these are stitch width limiters here. So you can adjust the width of the stitch. So the lever should be, that's actually seized. That's why it's broken. No, there we go. So what's happened is someone's tried to force this lever and just snapped this lever here off. Yeah, and the little limiters here, these are just lock nuts really, and so you've got your little sliders here for your limiters, spring loaded as well, so you can have your upper limit on this right hand limiter here, and you could tighten that, and then you can have your lower limit here with this one here, and that gives you a limit between these two stoppers here. Or just leave them loose and you could have you know, any width you like there. But unfortunately we've got a broken part, so there's a little, I guess we could probably just you know, find a screw in the meantime that would fit there. And I think these are Japanese machines, so more than likely that'll be a metric screw there. So just to be a matter of removing the nut here and the remnant of the broken screw, and then it would just be a matter of screwing the lock nut back onto a machine screw of some sort, maybe just in the meantime, and screw the machine screw into this here and tighten up the lock nut. I won't go through that at this stage, but yeah, maybe I'll do another video on just how to repair this little problem here. I would say that maybe this had seized in its left hand position there, so that'll be a straight stitch, and someone's forced this and broken the little bolt there, so that's a bit unfortunate. But anyway, let's get some oil onto this here. I'm going to oil that, and I'd probably put oil down onto that surface there. I'll get another angle on this one, because I think the oil should go into that there as well. And oil on this slider here. You'll see here that there's a cam that's driving this here, so, and there's a hole in this piece here. I think that's for oil. Get oil down onto that, get a fair amount of oil down into there. I would also oil this here and down in here as well. Let's get a fair amount of oil. There's no real risk of, you know, over oiling too much. See, that's jammed again. I wonder if the zigzag mechanism is jammed. That's probably why this has been a problem. Yeah, I think the actual zigzag mechanism's jammed on this, because now that's really difficult to bring across, and that's because the needle bar here is unable to move. That should swing back and forward, so I think that this is seized on this bearing here and that bearing there. Before I go oiling these bearings here though, I'll carry on oiling these other parts here, and we'll get to that seized bearing in a second. Now this gear, worm gear and pinion gear, will need grease. Let's get some grease onto that gear there. It's definitely a not a plastic gear, that's for sure. A bit of grease down on that gear there. I wouldn't worry, you know, if you put too much on there. You can see there from factory it's actually sprayed a bit of grease around the around the place. So, you know, a bit too much grease won't really affect it there. It'll just, any excess grease will just fly off there. Okay, let's carry on with oiling. So we've got the left hand top, you know, the case lid screw there, that one, main bearing left hand, top shaft. And then we've got take up linkages here. Just get the oil into those holes on the linkages there. You can see the oil holes there and there. There'll be one on the top here. And also oil this crank, top crank bearing there. And you'll also notice a hole down here on the lower crank bearing there as well. Just get some oil on there. Top needle bar bearing, get that one done. There is a hole in the top of the presser bar shaft there. I would say get some oil into that as well. So to set your presser foot pressure, you push this down and it locks in with the nut here. And then to release, you push the nut, this knurled nut here. That releases the pressure. So we're just looking in from the side here now. We've got the lower needle bar bearing, that one. And also I would oil this pivot here. That lower presser bar bearing, this one here. So what I've done there is I've actually put the stitch width, this is the stitch width, it's on maximum now. If I try and turn the wheel, this crank here is trying to move the needle bar back and forward, but it can't because it's seized in this area here. There'll be one of these bearings, if not both. So penetrating oil might be a good start here. This is CRC 556 penetrating oil, or WD-40, something like that. Just a very lightweight oil. I think ideally what I'd be tempted to do is, because with the machine in this orientation, you know, gravity is just going to pull the oil down, you know, to the outside of these surfaces here, and I think it's probably better to get it to soak in is to actually tip the machine on its end. We'll just carefully tip the machine up, just making sure that it's not going to force any connections, or not going to you know, damage any parts, but carefully put the machine on its end there. Now that's quite stable there. I would probably you know, if this was one of my customers' machines I was working on, I would securely prop that up there, but you know, it's right beside me here on the desk, so I won't go ahead and prop that up at this stage. Yep, it's right beside me, so it's fairly safe. I would target these areas with penetrating oil. So I've just got it up on a bit of an angle there, just to allow the oil to get into, you know, into these, in between these surfaces here and this one down here. Just a little bit of an angle there to let gravity do its work. Just a wee spray there, top and bottom. Maybe even just try and work that back and forward a little bit there. Don't want to put too much pressure on there, because you could bend something accidentally there. I'll just put the width down on 0 there, so I'm just gently working back and forward there. I'll leave that for a little bit and we'll come back and see if that penetrating oil's actually made any difference there a little bit later. One thing that you do have to remember with a machine like this is that the needle bar carrier, which swivels and allows the machine to zigzag, so the needle's doing this motion, zigzagging, with this type of machine, the hook down here and all this mechanism that drives the hook is actually connected to this, because the hook goes back and forward as well along with the needle. So when the needle's coming down the left side, the hook is on the left side as well to pick up the thread, and as the needle comes up and swings over to the right and down the right hand side of the hole, the whole hook moves to the right to stay in sync with the needle, because this is a horizontal hook, so the axis of the hook is horizontal, and hence, you know, your bobbin case is installed down in the side here. So what we have to also make sure of is it may not be these two bearings here that are seized. These bearings may be okay, but we don't know at this stage. So next thing to do is to tip the machine on its back, just like so, and if we have a look here, we'll see that we've got a bearing here, we've got this linkage here, and that linkage is driven from the top. So this is the hinge point here for this linkage. This bar here is being driven by the top zigzag mechanism, and it's attached to this point here and clamped at this point here onto this collar, if you like, and you'll see an oil point there, and you'll see an oil point there, and that is a lubrication point for this collar. And so potentially the other points that this machine could be seized in is this collar here, or this shaft. No, it's not going to be that shaft there, because that's turning fine there. You can see the shaft is turning, it's not seized. There's an oil point there, and this crank here also it slides in between this part here. Once we get this unseized, we'll get a better look, but I'm willing to put money on this bearing here, this collar being seized. So I'll get some penetrating oil, try and get down that hole there. I've misplaced the little tube for the spray here, so it's getting quite a wide spread there. But what you can do is you can just point it down a screwdriver there, and it should dribble down the point of the screwdriver there. So there you can see the hole is actually full of oil, penetrating oil there. This oil hole here is now full of penetrating oil. I've got a bit either side as well, just on this collar here, and I think that if we either leave that to soak or give it a little pull, I can actually see, the collar sliding through this bearing here, so I don't think that's where it's seized. Let's try and get you a close look there. You can see a small amount of movement of this collar through this bearing surface, and that to me indicates that this collar here is not seized. And we know that the right hand bearing here is not seized. It should be able to slide back and forward because we've got some rotational movement there. Can't imagine that would be point of seizure. This is not seized here. So another point it could be is this shaft that connects the top and bottom. So this shaft here connects between the top and the bottom. It's a crank here. I guess this point here could be seized. I can see a small amount of movement there. I wouldn't imagine that's the cause of it. So I don't think it is anything to do with the lower end here. I think that's fairly free. So I'll wrap this video up now. We'll call this part 1. I'll leave the penetrating oil to soak in there, and we'll come back and have another wee go at loosening the top end, the needle bar bearings off once the penetrating oil's had a bit more of a chance to soak in there. So I hope you found that helpful, and thanks very much for watching.